Okay, we are diving into a topic today that I don't really know that much about. And so I am so glad to have a guest on that can really break it down for us. And that is planned giving. And I love planned giving because as somebody who is a big believer in monthly giving, a lot of times your monthly givers that give for years and years and years can turn into planned gifts. So if you're someone who's thought, it's complicated, it's only for big shops, it requires a lawyer, an estate planner, maybe a Ouija board. Anybody else remember those from 80s, 90s? My guest today has spent almost 30 years proving that is completely wrong. Tony Martignetti started as a frontline fundraiser in 1997 and launched his consulting practice in 2003. Since then, he has made it his personal mission to be an evangelist for planned giving and really focusing on helping small and mid-sized nonprofits stop leaving legacy dollars on the table. He also hosts his own podcast, Nonprofit Radio, and he advises organizations all across the country. And this September, he's publishing a book. Now get this. The book is called Planned Giving Accelerated, Finally, a cut through there's little voices around, SHIT, no nonsense, practical, step-by-step guide to start long-term legacy giving fundraising at your small to mid-sized nonprofit simply in 1 week. And you start with bequests. That's the title. This conversation, y'all, if you can just tell, it's great. And I have read a lot of book titles, and that is the most committed title in the history of nonprofit publishing. Tony did not come here to leave anything on the table, including words, clearly. So today, Tony is going to walk us through exactly what it looks like to launch a planned giving program. He started with an organization that had zero, nothing. So if you're there, perfect. This is great. He's going to talk about what he built at St. John's University, what happened to some clients during the Great Recession, why the ones who had built planned giving programs survived in ways that is just, legendary, amazing. We're going to connect this to something you already have, maybe as monthly donors. This is a definitely laugh and learn conversation, and you'll leave with some things to put in place this week, I hope. So let's welcome Tony to Missions to Movements. I am so glad he's here.
Planned giving is not a death conversation. I like to flip death on its head and say it's a conversation about life. It's the life and the sustainability of your work, because you know that's what you have in common with all your donors, especially your long-term loyal donors that are the ones that you're going to be approaching for planned giving. They're going to be your top prospects. You have that love of the mission in common. That's what you talk about. That's what it is. And then just sustaining that mission.
Tony is officially in the house. This is such a treat, I just have to say. I said we were going to go right into a question, but Tony and I met for the first time in real life. Imagine that these days. And we met at a wonderful foundation event, the Sarkis Foundation event back, was that October?
October, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City. And we're like, you know what? We both have podcasts. We need to be on each other's shows. And Tony just happens to have a book that is coming out. And I was like, oh yeah, my readers love a good book and love a good discussion on planned giving, which is not my area of expertise at all. So Tony, welcome to the show to share all of your amazing knowledge with the guests of Missions to Movements.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain and the waving wheat. Yes, thank you, Dana Snyder. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet in person after lots of banter on LinkedIn, to actually give a hug at the Sarkis in Oklahoma City. That was fun. Thank you. And thanks for having me on to talk about planned giving.
Always. No, this is going to be really fun. So dive in. I want to take us back. I want to take us back to when you were working at St. John's University. And so we're going to have to walk back in here for a second. You inaugurated their planned giving program and just raised a teeny tiny amount of money, $20 million. Like starting at the beginning and then saying a number like that seems like a crazy feat. And maybe it was. Can you tell us what did the beginning truly look like?
Yeah, this is going back to 1998 is when I started there. There were no planned giving relationships. There was no planned giving conversations. There was no planned giving communication of any type. Just nobody was talking about long-term deferred gifts. And I came in and turned that around.
How did you get people excited about that? And even just start? Like, I think so many people might be in the same space as 1998. What was the initial, like, we need to do 1, 2, 3, just to get our feet wet?
Yeah. Well, I do want to say I've learned a lot since 1998. So I'm happy to tell the story because it's a good story. Thank you for starting there. But the book takes a different, more informed, let's say, process to launch planned giving at a small and mid-sized nonprofit. We'll get there. So St. John's, it's a university, but the people who love that mission are no different than people who give to any mission, whether they're doing it monthly sustaining or they're doing major gifts or some kind of annual gift that maybe doesn't qualify for a major gift or a planned gift. They love the work. So I picked up the phone and started talking to people who had been consistent, loyal donors to the university and encouraged them to think about continuing their giving into the long term. So it's really just started with picking up the phone. Groundwork.
Picking up the phone.
Groundwork. Yeah.
The groundwork. Yeah, very true.
And then I would just add, I guess, to go broader than the people I could talk to on the phone, I inaugurated a newsletter about planned giving to a broader prospect pool.
Okay. What was in that newsletter?
Ways of giving to the university that you love. Methods, giving through your will or life insurance or trusts. That's the part that what I outline in the book, you don't really need a newsletter to get started. But again, 1998, I've learned a few things in the past 29 years of being devoted to planned giving.
That's right. That's right. I mean, $20 million doesn't happen by accident. Can you explain now, like, looking back, knowing everything you know now, to someone like a St. John's that just might be starting, kind of what you alluded to, what would you do differently now that maybe we didn't have access to or technology was different that you would have done back then?
Or Tony Martignetti just got smarter. That's really, that's the real explanation. Yes. What would I do differently now? And this is what I talk about in the book. Focus on gifts in wills, simple charitable bequests. So you identify your top prospects, you start cultivation conversations with them, you get to solicit them all around the most popular planned gift by far, gifts in wills. And that's what the book is all based on.
I've seen some emails come out around this that I've been targeted for. And one makes me be like, oh gosh, am I like, I mean, I do actually, we have like living will. We do need to probably think about that. But I was like, oh my, I am now being targeted for will requests. I'm 37. So how do you work with nonprofits in when is the right time to solicit, or what is it based on? Like, break down some of those principles for someone like me who's a complete novice into this world.
Yeah, you're young for what I would recommend.
Thank you, Tony. I'm going to get AARP pretty soon.
You're about 18 years below where I would start. I like to start, and I recommend starting for folks who are roughly 55 to 60 and over. And remember, now we're talking about launching planned giving. That doesn't mean forever you're only going after and prospecting with folks 55 to 60. But in the early years, that's sort of the low-hanging fruit. Those are the folks most likely to be open to the idea of including your nonprofit in their will.
For someone who's sitting here and being like, okay, I definitely have donors in that demographic, what are you typically see that people are looking for? Like within a donor base, to not just the age, I'm sure, but like based upon their giving habits, based upon if they're a volunteer, like what have you found in your experience typically is a warm group that's really interested in hearing about this?
Loyal, committed, long-term donors. So even if you don't have age, which a lot of nonprofits don't know the age, they don't have age in their CRM database, that's fine. You're looking for your long-term, loyal, committed donors, folks who have been giving 15, 20, 25 years, or if your nonprofit's only 10 years old, folks who have been giving for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Your long-term, loyal, committed donors. Those are your best prospects for a gift in a will. And we know that because they love your work. because,
Right.
maybe over 15 years, some of them may have made 18 or 20 gifts, right? Multiple gifts in some years. They love your work that much that they've just been that loyal to you. They know how important your work is in the community, and they're the most likely to say, yes, I'll put your work, your mission in my will.
Yeah. You must have a ton of good stories in this work. I don't know if there's surprises from organizations you've worked with that they were like, they've never really made the ask before, and then that came out. I love this quote, like, planned giving saved our ass. In practical ways, story-wise, can you break down just some ways that you've seen this transform an organization?
Yeah, I'll start with that story that you alluded to. That was a client. It was a college. Now, I don't want folks to think that, this is only for universities and colleges, because we talked about St. John's University, and now I'm talking about a client that was a college.
Of course.
You would be taking away the wrong lessons from this episode of Missions to Movements hosted by Dana Snyder if you thought, this is only for higher ed and maybe healthcare, the biggest institutions. No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So
actually, let me start with a tiny nonprofit story, and then I'll tell the Saved Our Ass story. A client I worked with, there was a historical society, one full-time employee, and they had some volunteers, but one full-time employee, the executive director. Their annual budget was about $275,000. We did a first planned giving mailing for them, and they got 6 gift commitments out of a mailing that was about 250 people or so. 6 folks checked the box that said, I've already included the agency in my will.
Wow.
So that's 6 out of 250. And that's a very first mailing.
That's
together.
incredible.
So, Dana, it's the love of the organization. It's the love of the work.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that you say about sustainers and, monthly donors.
Totally.
They love your work so much that they don't want to just give $50. They want to give $50 a month. And you're savvy if you ask them, do you want to make it monthly?
Right.
I mean, far be it from me to put words in the mouth of the monthly giving maven. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
The planned giving.
A few things from when you were on my podcast. And certainly one of them is, ask folks, do you want to make it monthly? So it all goes back to the love of the work. It doesn't matter what your mission is. I'm not even going to try to name whether it is education or religion or feeding or violence shelters, or it's animals or the environment, or it's education or healthcare. It doesn't matter. I wrote the book for small and mid-sized nonprofits. It's in the title.
I love the intro to your podcast, which, by the way, is Nonprofit Radio. What do you say at the very beginning?
Big nonprofit ideas for the other 95%.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah.
Eva came in with it. And we didn't have the amazing music behind it, but that's okay. I can try and add that in post.
Cheap Red Wine, our theme music. Scott Stein, the singer of Cheap Red Wine. So you want me to tell that Saved Our Ass story?
Yes, but first I think that's phenomenal because you send out the mailer and sometimes we're just not asking to receive the information. 6 already had done. It wasn't like it was new in their mind.
Yeah.
They had already confirmed and they wouldn't have known unless that was sent out. I mean, that's huge. And I think sometimes it's just asking the insight of, okay, great. That's nice. Now we can follow up with those people.
We can thank them. We don't have to wait. We can thank them now. Yeah. You just ask, have you already included us? On a simple reply card, I'd like info on including you. I've already done it. Yeah. And 6 people checked that I've already done it box.
Amazing. What did they, sorry, I'm just diving into the story because I love it.
Yeah.
What did they do after they found out about the 6?
Oh, effusive thanks. If the person tells you in person, face to face, and if you're a hugger and if it's not inappropriate, I would give them a hug. Yeah, absolutely. Physical, I'm not exaggerating.
I just virtually hugged Tony, by the way, for everybody who's just listening to this.
Okay, I'm returning. So big hugs. If that's not appropriate because it's not for every relationship you have with a donor, just overwhelming, effusive thanks. Thank you so much. Because what they've done is they've put you alongside their husband, wife, partner, commitment. Children, and grandchildren in their will. That's huge. Yeah. So you want to be so grateful. So if it's on the phone or if it's in person, just lots of thanks. Thank you for doing this. Certainly follow up more formally, with a letter. Mm-hmm. I happen to write like handwritten notes from CEOs. Again, we're talking about small and mid-sized nonprofits. So Hopefully you can get the CEO's attention. Maybe a handwritten note would be great. If not handwritten, then a more formal letter acknowledging the gift, the commitment.
Do you ever get the group together? Like doing like an event, if it's a hyper local event? Have you ever seen that happen before?
Oh yeah, tons. Yeah.
Okay.
Once you get further along in planned giving, you're going to have more and more commitments. You can have a recognition society that you could welcome folks to. So you asked, what do you do after you get that notification? Mm-hmm. One of the things you could do is welcome them to the recognition society if you have one. But you don't have to have a planned giving recognition society to start your planned giving. I have it in the title of my book. You can start planned giving within a week of reading the book because you have what you need in your CRM database. You don't need to have the recognition society to open conversations with your top prospects.
Yes. I have to tell you this monthly giving case study with Heroes for Children. Last May, they had 15 monthly donors, under $1,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. And this May, fast forward, over $7,000 a month in recurring revenue. The average gift is $74 a month. Retention is above 94%, and recurring giving is now 25% of their total fundraising in 1 year. That's what's possible. They started with a VIP intensive last year. It's a day and a half where I'm not your consultant, but I am on your team. And it starts with a very comprehensive questionnaire. You fill it out before we ever meet. We go through it together, and then we build the actual plan for our VIP intensive day together. This is not just a strategy doc that sits in a drawer. This is a plan of what we're going to accomplish together, virtually or in person. And I have 2 spots open this fall, in September or October, just 2. So if you are interested in where I am a member of your team for a day and a half, go to positiveequation.com, click monthly giving, and you can apply. Also, the link is in the show notes, or just DM me on LinkedIn. Tell me you heard about this and we can chat. There's 2 spots. Go check it out. Again, positiveequation.com and click on monthly giving and check out the VIP intensive section. Because you brought it up, will you please give us the full title of the book?
Oh, you're so thoughtful, Dana Snyder, really.
It's not just the Planned Giving Accelerated. It is
Planned Giving Accelerated. Finally, someone wrote a cut through the shit, no nonsense, practical, step-by-step guide to start long-term legacy giving fundraising at your small to mid-sized nonprofit simply in 1 week. And you start with bequests. The title may be longer than the book. Did you need a nap?
Wait, does it go all the way to nap?
Yeah, it goes all the way to nap. Yeah.
Does that just make someone's day?
Well, yeah, I may run into title character limits for Amazon or something. So I may need to cut some, but what I just gave you is I gave you at least 80% of that is going to be in the title. I will only cut it if I'm forced by technology constraints.
It is pure gem, immediately identical to your personality that shines, that it would be however many characters is that?
It's more than 200, which may be the limit. So somebody did feedback that it's the most humorous book ever written about fundraising.
It is. Okay, so wait. All right. So you've been doing this for a minute. Why just now are you dropping a book on it?
Dana Snyder invited me on the podcast. I thought I better have something good to talk about. So
you wrote a book.
I'll write a book for her.
I am so honored.
No, there's a lot of talk about sustainability in the nonprofit community, right? Planned giving is ideal for either launching or growing your endowment, which is essential to sustainability, right? You want to have that savings account that you never spend the principal of. So all the talk about sustainability. Also, since the pandemic, there are 2 things going on. One is people are focusing more on their own mortality. And now that was more during and right after the pandemic. So I think that's kind of waned a little bit. But craving deeper relationships, I'm starting to see backlash against AI and AI, getting too close to us. relationships, deeper relationships come from planned giving. You get to know people so much better.
About everyone paying attention to life and life expectancy. I don't know. Have you been watching the show Paradise?
No, I know it's wildly popular. I haven't been watching.
I literally asked my husband the other night, I was like, I want to order on Amazon an emergency kit and I want to have it next to our bedside. So I don't know, that might be helping your favor too, that this show is extremely popular, that people are planning their gifts. So you could do a whole thing and like, you need planned giving because of the show Paradise. It's also peas. It works. You never know. This is not an ad for Hulu, by the way, which is what the show is on, but everybody should go watch it because it's fantastic. Okay. There has been a lot going on in, the world and the nonprofit landscape that you mentioned. Economically, culturally, I don't even know. What's the percentage, I don't know if you know this or if you wrote about this in the book, of organizations that have like a planned giving program versus those that don't have this legacy pipeline, specifically in the smaller mid-size orgs?
Yeah, too few. I don't know the percentage, but folks get put off by so many of the myths around planned giving, like that it's going to hurt our other fundraising.
Oh, well, that's everything.
That it's a death conversation, that it requires expertise. I debunk these myths in the book very explicitly. So there's just not enough small and mid-sized nonprofits doing planned giving. I gave you the example of a one-person shop.
Okay, right now, in this moment, other than them pre-ordering and getting your book, which is going to be available ASAP, we are in the final stages. Do we have September? Do we have exact date?
Publish it? No, I don't have a date in September, but the URL is plannedgivingaccelerated.com.
Okay, I'm glad you didn't make the URL 200 characters.
Finally, someone wrote a cut through the ship, no nonsense, practical, step-by-step. Yeah. Do you need a nap.com? No, it's not
do
that.
You need a nap? You should have just wrote, do you need a nap.com? Wonder if that URL is available. Okay, so you also shared, maybe this is the one that you were talking about. Is this the one, a VP at a client at a cottage, the end of the Great Recession? Was that the bigger college story that you were going to share?
That was the one, yes, because they had planned giving. Now, they had planned giving before I started with them. My practice now is strictly launching planned giving programs. But at that time, going back all these years, I was working in a program that had already been sustained and they had a good number of planned gift commitments already. They had a recognition society. And in the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, beginning of 2010, planned giving supported the fundraising revenue that had dropped off because so many people stopped giving because in the Great Recession, people were losing jobs and the stock market was in a free fall and things were very uncertain. Fundraising fell off. But the vice president at that college coming out of the recession said, planned giving saved our ass.
Yeah. And everything's usually pretty cyclical. We just saw a lot happen with federal grants last year. There's always ebbs and flows of funding changes. So to your point and to my point about sustainability, it's really important to set up these things that can set you up to be able to be more stable for your missions. So, I talk a lot about monthly giving as one of the pathways to sustainability. What's your thought on, do you see monthly donors as pathways to be planned gifts?
Absolutely.
Have you seen that? Yeah.
Yeah. Because what we talk about, loyal, committed, long-term donors. Folks have been giving to you for years as sustainers because the nonprofits they've been giving to have been following the savvy advice of the monthly giving maven. That's why they've been giving for so long. And those are the folks who become very good planned giving prospects. Now, I did say, 55 to 60 and over, for an initial couple of years, I would recommend sticking with that. My biggest concern about folks who are younger than that or much younger than that, is the gift going to actually be there until they've died? And when you're talking about a 25, 30, 40-year-old, they've got, 60 years of life left, maybe 70 years of life left.
Hopefully, yep.
That's a lot of stewardship. Plus, people's priorities change over that many decades. So I would rather you start with, and this is what I recommend in the book, you start with, again, the folks 55 to 60 and over. Those gifts are much more likely to remain in the person's will.
Yeah, it is a testament. It is a long time to do stewardship. And it's so interesting. Like, I wonder now, thinking about my own monthly giving habits I think the longest standing one I have right now is about 6 years. And I mean, I have no desire to stop. I mean, unless maybe that mission solves anti-human trafficking, which I wish it would. But I know that's a very, very, very large problem. I mean, yeah, I would have no desire in stopping. So could I be a monthly donor for 30 plus years? Maybe.
Yeah, that's a longevity, right? I mean, that's 30 years times 12. Is that 360 gifts over, right? So
it's a long play.
It is a long play. Yeah. And look, even if you stopped your sustainer giving, you probably still continue giving to the organization somehow. I mean, the likelihood of you like ending totally seems small. So we would capture you. And look, I would say like in years like 3 to 5 or so, you could start going younger with your prospecting around planned giving. Just in those first 3 years or so, I would like you to focus on the most likely gifts to remain in people's wills.
Okay. What would you say? Because like having a living will, and God forbid something would happen, it is an interesting education piece for a younger demographic. So those of us that are entering like 40s that definitely have kids, right? That want to have something stable and set up. It's an interesting thing for our generation to think about. Is part of it also talking to the lawyers? Like, do they oftentimes partner, and do you talk with people who are actually helping the donors and just people create their wills to ask if there's an organization they would like to give to? Like, is that naturally part of the conversation?
I don't know that lawyers do that. I wish they would. People don't really need to know from their professional advisor, whether it's a lawyer or financial planner, or CPA, where should we give? It's more.
Oh, no, not about where, but just prompting of like, do you have somewhere you
prompting?
Like? Yeah.
I wish professional advisors would do that. I know some do. Some make it a routine part of their practice to ask about charitable giving in your long-term plan. I don't think all do. I think they should. I think it is part of at least a consideration when you're thinking long-term plans. And Dana, I just want to distinguish for folks so there's no confusion. You asked about a living will. Let's just make clear, the living will is what you want to have done if you lose capacity, how you want to be treated in a hospital. Like,
oh, sorry. I meant, yes. I'm in an actual will. Sorry.
Oh, you meant an actual will. Oh, okay.
I'm in an actual will.
Actual will, not living will. All right.
Yes.
All right.
Not living will. Yes. Okay. Question from the upcoming book. Can you tease or share with us, like, what are a couple surprises, maybe like some principles that you teach that you think people just be like, what? Wait, really? That? Can you share some of those? Some sneak peeks?
I mentioned one already, that planned giving is not a death conversation. You are not talking to folks about death. It puts a lot of people off planned giving because they think that I'm going to have to talk to my donors about what their death plan is.
No, isn't it like legacy? Yeah,
no, it's exactly the opposite. Well, legacy, yes, but I like to flip death on its head and say it's a conversation about life. It's the life and the sustainability of your work. Because that's what you have in common with all your donors, especially your long-term loyal donors they're the ones that you're going to be approaching for planned giving. They're going to be your top prospects, like I talk about. Yeah. You have that love of the mission in common. That's what you talk about. That's what it is. And then just sustaining that mission, a long-term gift commitment to that mission that you both love. You love it because you're raising money for it. I hope you love your work. Of course you do. And your donor loves it because they're a long-term, loyal, committed donor. So, it's not a death conversation. And that's a big, big misconception about planned giving. It's a conversation about life, the life and longevity of your mission.
I love that perspective. And I love your passion on this. I feel like it's so fun to have somebody as equally passionate about their work and what you're helping organizations do. And as much as I talk about monthly giving, it's like you're giving a great opportunity to them to ask them to give in a monthly way. You're giving them a great opportunity to give a gift in their will to pass on for hopefully like generations and generations to come. Tony, last word. What piece of advice would you give right now to someone who's like, okay, I'm convinced. 1, they're going to go buy your book. 2, what could they do in the interim before they can get their hands on it?
Before they get the book, which is probably going to be next month, September, flip your mindset about planned giving. It's not complicated. It's easy. It's accessible. It's affordable when you focus on gifts and wills. And that's what the book is going to have you do. Same thing I've been having my clients do for a long time.
Awesome. Can't wait to read it. And I'm sure you'll be teasing it on the podcast. So check out Nonprofit Radio if you have not heard of it. Tony does a fabulous job and brings on some great guests. And I cannot wait to have a picture of the book with the longest title known to mankind sitting on my bookshelf in just about a month. So Tony, appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm grateful to you. Thank you very much, Dana.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Missions to Movements. If you enjoyed our conversation and found it helpful, I would love for you to take a moment to leave a review wherever you're listening. Your feedback helps us reach more change makers like you and continue bringing impactful stories and strategies to the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too, so you'll never miss an episode. And until next time, keep turning your mission into a movement.